Hector Pieterson, a 12-year-old boy, gunned down on June 16, 1976. His only crime? Being a peaceful protester. Welcome back, Mzansi, to this sobering episode of Risk Roots. Today, we go back in time and we look at one of the saddest events that shaped South African history as we fast approaching Youth Day. 20,000 students took part in a peaceful protest. Their goal? Challenge Afrikaans as a teaching medium in their schools. Today we know that over 500 people lost their lives, the ultimate price for a peaceful protest. But before we ask what went wrong, I want to challenge something first. We tell ourselves that June 16th is history. We have learned the patterns that produced that morning belong to a different era, a different government, a different South Africa. Today's episode is about unlearning that belief. When we pull June 16th apart as risk practitioners, what we find is not a historical case study. It's a mirror. And what is staring back at us is not 1976. It's your current risk register. The Afrikaans medium of instruction policy didn't arrive without warning. Teachers flagged it as unworkable, school principals escalated concerns. The intelligence was there. The escalation did not follow. As an early warning system without a functioning escalation protocol, this is not a control. It's a filing exercise. The risk was identified. It was not acted on. A warning that travels no further than an email inbox is equivalent to no warning at all. When last did you review your escalation protocols? Not to confirm that they exist, but to confirm they actually work. How many warnings are sitting in your system right now? Identified, logged, and going nowhere slowly. On the morning of June 16th, police opened fire on students. No formal order to shoot was given. Junior officers made lethal decisions in the absence of clear command authority. The control environment, the chain of command, the use of force protocols, the accountability structures collapsed precisely when it was needed the most. A control that functions under normal conditions but fails under pressure is not a control. It's a design flaw. Stress conditions do not create weaknesses, they reveal them. When last were your controls stress tested? Not against normal operating conditions, but against the scenarios that actually keep your risk team up at night. Because the controls that failed on June 16th, they looked fine on paper too. The Afrikaans Instruction Directive had been resisted and inconsistently applied for years before 1976. The system had learned to manage the non-compliance rather than address it. Resistance was treated as noise. By the time June 16th arrived, the accumulated tolerance for a fundamentally unworkable policy had created conditions that made the crisis not just possible, but inevitable. When non-compliance becomes normalized, whether it's in policy implementation, claims handling, or culture, it becomes a reality. What in your organization has been non-compliant for so long that it stopped feeling like a risk? What has your team learned to work around rather than fix? Because that's not operational resilience. That's a crisis in slow motion. What began on June 16th as a student march became, within days, an international crisis. The photo of Hector Pieterson circulated the globe. Diplomatic relationships shifted. The anti-apartheid movement gained renewed momentum internationally. The apartheid government did not lose a crowd control operation. It lost its legitimacy over the world stage, and it never recovered from it. Reputational risk does not live in the communications department. It lives in every interaction, every decision, every failure to act. A single mishandled complaint, a conflicted recommendation, a disclosure failure. None of these are isolated incidents. Each one is a photograph waiting to be taken. The question is not whether your conduct is visible. It's whether it's defensible when it becomes so. When last did your organization treat a customer complaint as an enterprise risk rather than a service recovery task? Because no one knew that picture would change history that morning. After June 16th, the government declared a state of emergency, banned organizations, arrested over 1,000 people, and ordered hospitals to surveil gunshot victims. Doctors recorded bullet wounds as abscesses to protect patients. The cover-up became its own crisis. The response entrenched the damage rather than contained it. Over 500 people died before the immediate unrest subsided. The deeper political consequences lasted decades. How we respond after a risk event is as important as the event itself. Defensiveness amplifies exposure. Concealment compounds liability. The institutions that survive risk events are not the ones that avoid them. They are the ones that respond to them with transparency, accountability, and structural correction. When your organization last had a significant incident, a complaint, a regulatory finding, a control failure, what was your first instinct? To fix it or to contain the narrative around it? The deepest lesson of June 16 is this. The apartheid government did not fail to manage risk on that day. It managed risk exactly as the framework was designed, protecting the structures of the system at the expense of the people inside it. The students were not an oversight. They were the intended residual risk bearers. Risk management is not morally neutral. A framework that protects institutional interests at the expense of the people it's meant to serve is not risk management. It's risk displacement. The purpose of your risk framework matters as much as its technical operation. Now pause. Ask yourself honestly, who is your framework actually protecting? Here's what I want you to walk away with today. We've spent this episode in 1976, but I haven't been talking about 1976. What I've been talking about, the ignored escalation protocols that exist in your organization right now, controls that have never been stress tested, non-compliance that's been normalized for so long nobody even calls it that anymore, complaints that are being closed rather than heard, incidents that are being managed for narrative rather than root cause, and frameworks, if you're honest, are protecting the institution more than the customer. That is not history. That is just Monday morning. The students of 1976 died demanding the right to a decent education. In 2026, their grandchildren have the education and still cannot find work. The warning signals are in every stats essay report, every graduate survey, every graduate that you speak to. They are being recorded. They're just not being acted on. If that pattern sounds familiar, it should, because it's the same pattern. A different era, a different crisis, the same institutional failure to act on what everyone knows. We have not learned from the past. We've just archived it. The most dangerous risks are not the ones you cannot see. They're the ones you decide not to look at. Until next time, stay curious, stay honest, and keep asking those uncomfortable questions.